Let me paint you a picture. It's checkout day. You walk in with your turnover kit, your cleaning playlist queued up, and a tight timeline because the next guest arrives at exactly 3 p.m. And you are met with the spill on the coffee table that has dried into a permanent life decision, a perishable item inside the microwave that has been there long enough to develop its own political opinions, and crumbs in the bed, specifically dead center in the bed, in a quantity that suggests a full course meal was consumed there intentionally, possibly more than once. Today, we're going to talk about why. This is Coherent Ground, and I'm Psalm. This is part 2 of a 3-part series on the psychology of the guest. Last episode, we talked about the guest who rearranges. This week, this is the guest who leaves evidence. Here is the thing I want to establish up front. That guest did not accidentally eat chips in the bed. They made a choice. Several choices, actually. Over multiple days. They found the least logical place in your entire unit to store an open container of something that spoils rapidly, and they committed to it. They looked at the kitchen, they looked at the refrigerator, and they consciously chose the windowsill. I should say up front that I am neurodivergent, and left out food is not a minor annoyance for me. It's a threat signal. I live in the desert. Heat plus food plus time is not untidiness. It is an invitation. And the things that accept that invitation do not leave. So, I open a microwave. It is sweating like the sins of the forefathers, and it is emitting the distinct perfume of meat that has turned. And the sink, every plate, every bowl, every cup stacked into a monument of crusty confessions, of convenience store dietary choices that have fossilized. And at the summit, at the summit, a butter knife caked in peanut butter, standing up out of that pile like Excalibur. I blamed their grandfathers. I blamed their grandfathers' mothers. I stood in that kitchen and I indicated an entire lineage. And here's the part I have to be fair about, the microwave. I've forgotten food in a microwave. That one is just, I guess, being human. But the dishes felt personal. Rinsing takes 5 seconds. 5 seconds, and I'm not scrubbing cement. And the thought I actually had standing there was, they are trying to get their money's worth of the cleaning fee. What I eventually understood is that I was not angry about the crumbs, or even the knife, or even the smell. I was angry because the mess felt like a message. It almost never is, though. What is actually happening? Let's talk about the mechanism. There is a real finding here, and it's not the one people usually reach for. When researchers compare how the same person behaves at home versus how they behave as a tourist, the thing that predicts whether they cut ethical corners is perceived anonymity. not laziness, not character, the sense that nobody who knows them will ever connect this behavior to their name. That is a 2024 study out of Current Issues in Tourism, looking at moral disengagement across tourism and home contexts. Anonymity was the consistent driver in both settings. I want to be careful here because there is an older idea called de-individuation that gets cited consistently, well, constantly for this exact thing. A 1998 meta-analysis by Popes and Spears reviewed 60 tests of it and found the support was thin, so I'm not going to lean in on that. The cleaner way to say it, your guess is not in a consequence-free zone. They are in a space where they cannot picture the consequence. Those feel identical from the inside, and they are a completely different problem to solve, though. They are different problems. The second piece is ownership. Environmental psychologists distinguish between primary territories, the place we own and defend and personalize, and public or temporary ones, which people mark just enough to reserve and almost never invest in caring for. So a 4-night stay generates approximately 0 psychological ownership, and people do not maintain what they do not feel they own. The entitlement part. Okay, so there is also a subset of guests who shift somewhere in the booking process from guests to consumer. The marketing literature has a name for the behavior on that far end of the shift. Fullerton and Punge called it the dysfunctional customer behavior back in 1993. Their definition: acts by consumers that deliberately violate the general accepted norms of a consumption situation. And the part of their model that actually matters for you? Well, they argued the context drives it, the physical environment, the level of deterrence, the signals the business sends about itself. Because you can't screen for character, you can change the context. Okay, so a note about the food in weird places, right? A quick caveat, and I want to be honest about the limits of what I know. I've heard hosts explain food in strange locations as anxiety or hoarding or a private eating pattern. And that may sometimes be true, but I have no research to hand you on that, and I'm not going to diagnose a stranger from the state of the windowsill, okay? What I will say is the boring version, which is better supported anyway. People put food where the friction is the lowest. So if the kitchen is far, formal, or feels like a display, food migrates. So what is the layout? What is your layout telling you? Which brings us to the point. So this is the part that is our fault, right? Affectionately. If you are consistently seeing food in non-kitchen spaces, your kitchen may not be functioning as a kitchen. It may be functioning as a photograph of a kitchen. Let's discuss placement. A fruit bowl, a visible coffee station, a snack basket on the counter. These are not decor. They are choice architecture. They tell the guests wordlessly, eating happens here. Put a visible, attractive trash receptacle in every room where food will realistically be eaten. Resist the urge to just focus on aesthetics. Put the correct number of trash receptacles. Friction causes abandonment. So a guest holding a wrapper 8 feet from a bin will throw it away. A guest holding a wrapper who has to go downstairs will put it on the nightstand and forget it exists. The one finding I would tattoo on every host. Okay, so in 2008, 3 researchers, Kaiser, Lindenberg, and Stegg, published a set of 6 field experiments in Science. What they found is called the cross norm effect. When people see that one norm has been violated, they become more likely to violate a different, unrelated norm. A graffiti on the wall made people litter. Disorder spreads sideways, if you will. So there is a retail version of this too. So published in 2016, a disorderly store measurably increases unethical customer behavior. So translate that to your unit. A scuff you stopped noticing, a drawer that does not close, a grout line you have given up on. Your guest reads all of it, not consciously, but they read it. And a space that has visibly stopped being cared for gives permission. The inverse of the whole business model. A space that is obviously tended tends to get treated well. All right, so here we go. What's the playbook for this? 5 things fast. 1, price. The clean honesty. An underpriced cleaning fee communicates the turnover is cheap, and cheap reads as low stakes. 2, rewrite your checkout card using a descriptive norm. This one is not a guess. Goldstein, Sardini, and Gravostikovich ran it in hotels in 2008 and published it in the Journal of Consumer Research. Signs saying most guests reuse their towels beat the standard environmental appeal. And the strongest version was the most specific one. Most guests in this room. So do not write, please clean up after yourself. Write, most of our guests bag their trash and clear out food before they head out. If you can start a load of towels, even better. Thank you, genuinely. Your review means the world to us. Okay? So naming the review is not manipulation. It reinforces a consequence they can picture, which is the exact thing we said was missing at the top of this episode. Okay? 3, reduce friction. Bins where food is. Make sure that there are bins wherever the food is going to be. 4, audit your photos. If your bedroom is styled like a sterile luxury suite that no human should eat in, some percentages of guests will eat in it defiantly. Lived in and cared for Outperform untouchable. And 5, state the boundary plainly. Please keep food and drinks in the kitchen and dining areas so the space stays fresh for guests, for every guest, right? One last thing, and before I let you go. Repeat mess across multiple guests is not a string of bad luck. It is a data point about your positioning. I do want to be straight with you. I could not find hard research linking nightly rate to guest mess specifically. Okay, so like lower rates don't necessarily increase the mess. That one is my working theory built on the deterrence of context, not a study. So treat it as a hypothesis you can test on your own calendar, that if you run, like last minute deals or really cut your prices, if you notice the mess in this issue increasing, I would be really interested in anyone of their own lived experience with this. But the underlying logic holds. Investment correlates with accountability. Not because short stay guests are worse people, but because nobody feels responsible for a place they never really arrived in. So your job is not to find better guests, it's to build your space that makes the consequences visible. All right, next episode, part 3. And it's a hard one, the guest who steals. Why hosts talk themselves out of naming it and what to document before you need it. Thanks for spending this time with me today here on the Valley Floor. Building something real as a small operator is quiet, often invisible work. Now, if these conversations are helping you find your own coherent ground, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Those small actions are the 1% deposits that help this community compound and reach the other hosts and builders still navigating their own valley. If you're ready to move from insight into aligned action, join the Coherent Ground email list. You'll be the first to receive new operational resources, exclusive booking specials for the Desert Valley Suite, and lab updates on our AI-assisted systems as they're ready for the public. The link is in the description. It's a quiet door we're leaving open for whenever you're ready to walk through it. I'm Song. Remember, you're not behind, you're in the valley, and the valley is doing its work.